What is up, everybody? This is More Fanime, and I am your fan of more anime, and today I will be going on a deep dive into my first time reading chapters 26 through chapter 50 of the BLEACH manga. And this has been a journey. I'll be honest with you, the first 25 chapters did intrigue me, but it didn't make me love this series. And I'll be honest with you once again, these next 25 chapters were absolutely fantastic. At least the last 15 or so. And we'll get into it here in a second. This is my first time experiencing BLEACH as a whole. I might have watched an episode as a teenager and just never got into it. When I was a kid in the early 2000s or a teenager, it felt like to me after you finished Dragon Ball Z, you had three choices: Naruto, One Piece, or BLEACH. It was like these three animes all kind of came around the same time. One Piece was kind of fudged up thanks to 4Kids, the 4Kids dub, and BLEACH looked cool for the most part. I just never got into it. Maybe it was because I was kind of comparing it to Yu Yu Hakusho, a favorite of mine from the late 90s, early 2000s. And it, had the same demon concept. I don't know. I was a teenager. But then there was Naruto, full of ninjas, badass fight scenes. I got right into that easily. I chose the Naruto path in life. And this last year, I've been catching up on the One Piece. And this year, 2022, I've decided I might as well finish the whole trilogy. The deadly triangle of the big three, and go with BLEACH, the lesser loved of the three by the fandom, but the very much loved by the BLEACH fandom. A lot of the fans have told me that I will really love this series, and it is really starting to pick up. And I'll be honest with you, I'm having a great time reading it. And I can't wait to read the next 25 chapters. My goal is to read 25 chapters per review. And a lot of these first 50 chapters seems like a way to set up this world. I still know very little to nothing about the Soul Society, where Rukia comes from. I mean, the last chapter, chapter 50, ends off on a crazy cliffhanger about her and the Soul Society, like, hunting her because she's a fugitive or some shit. So I don't know if she's even still working there, like, legitimately. You'd think that they'd wonder what the hell's going on. Why isn't she checking in? I mean, I guess they wouldn't know that she's hired a human, to do her job, in a way, because she can't access her full power anymore since she gave the reins to Ichigo. Let's just hop right into it. Chapter 26 kicks off with a little mini story with Kon, the little stuffed animal that was the little pill that was like a manufactured artificial soul from the Soul Society that was supposed to be like a weapon. But the Soul Society decided that these weapons were not right and they were going to destroy them even though they were sentient. Kind of a negative thing to do. They created them and decided not to use them. He somehow slipped through the cracks and is now Rukia's stuffed lion. Basically, he is having some issues living with Ichigo, living with Rukia. They treat him like a stuffed animal and not like a person, is what I got from this story. He is also a pervert. So he leaves the house and says, "I'm running away from home," like a scolded child. Kon runs away from home, tries to become a stuffed animal for somebody else. Orihime would be his first choice. Mostly because she has big boobs. is what I got from it. He does not succeed in that. He actually reveals that he's a sentient stuffed animal to some of Ichigo's classmates, and they start chasing him down the streets. Even Chad, one of Ichigo's other classmates, sees him and starts running after him. And I literally laughed out loud, because in the manga, it shows Chad running after the stuffed animal, and it points, little arrow box points at him and says, "Loves cute things." I'm starting to really like Chad. Eventually, Kon ends up back at the house, gets a bath, and gets dressed up like a girl, but ends up back home. It's a really little mini chapter. It's nice to have those after momentous moments like Ichigo fighting the hollow that killed his mother. So that was kind of like a break. Then we meet a new character who I'm assuming will be reoccurring. His name was Don Kanonji. Mr. Don is a TV personality in this universe, the Bleach world. I personally wasn't a fan of his character yet. Maybe he was supposed to be kind of a funny character, and I just never laughed at any of his very cringiness. But that's kind of who he's supposed to be, a very cringy spirit, premier spiritualist in Japan, or around the world, I'm guessing. And he has a TV show where he, exercises spirits, and his whole town loves this show. He's a big deal. Ichigo is not into him. His sister is not, the sister with black hair, is not into him because they can already see spirits. They are like, it's no big deal. And they don't think that he can actually see ghosts, and he's just a liar. And he's doing this, for fame. And if he can, he's not taking it seriously. They don't think it's anything cool. I'm surprised that his dad, Ichigo's dad and other sister, thinks it's so dope. Maybe just because the whole town does. Because I believe they know that Ichigo can talk to spirits. Just saying. So why give a shit? They have a kid right here who can literally talk to ghosts. So they find out this dude is coming to their hometown. Ichigo wants nothing to do with it, but all of his classmates, including Chad, are all doing this goofy boo-ha-ha-ha-ha laugh that this spirit guy does. I believe his name was Don. So they force Ichigo to go to this event. He is not into it at all. Even Rukia starts to get into the boo-ha-ha. I think she's just into the idea of a group setting. She's kind of interested in what humans find entertaining. And they go to this haunted hospital, and it's going to lead to something. You can't imagine that this is going to lead to nothing. I thought maybe this boo-ha-ha guy would end up being like a crazy villain, and maybe this was all just a ploy, or somehow he absorbed. My first thoughts were like, well, maybe he takes hollows and puts it into his own body or something, or he collects hollows, or something cool like that. I was not correct while reading it. I will admit that. So they do see a spirit attached to this hospital who is turning into a hollow. He's like a premature hollow that takes months to happen, though. Even Ruki is not worried about it. She's like, it's not gonna, don't worry. His hole in his chest has not completely opened up yet. It's gonna be fine. We'll know with my little special phone if he becomes a hollow, and we'll come eliminate him. But if that hole gets messed with, it could speed up the process, we find out. So this spiritual guy, Dawn, I believe, shows up out of the sky, jumps out of like an airplane or a helicopter, comes down with a parachute and does his boo-ha-ha thing. Everybody's stoked except Ichigo. This dude, first thing he does is the thing that Rukia says do not do. He sticks his staff into the hole of this spirit and forces him to become a hollow immediately, something that would have taken months to happen. He I guess you can do that. I am curious, in the comments below, could you let me know if this staff has some kind of spiritual energy? Like, how does he do that? Does it have... Can anybody just touch a spirit unknowingly, even if they can't see the spirits? Obviously, this guy could see the spirits because he's able to find them and stick his staff in their chest holes. But it seems like he's able to touch him. Is it only able to touch them if someone else, if you can actually see them, is what I'm trying to say? So Ichigo tries to stop him and gets instantly tackled by a bunch of security guards, and they're like, get out of here. They think he's some weird fan, and Ichigo can't even get Rukia there to like knock him out of his body so he can become a Soul Reaper. He's kind of screwed, but then Kisuke shows up, the guy with the hat and clogs that has that store with spirit stuff. He shows up, and he helps Ichigo out with his little cane, pushes Ichigo out of his body. Ichigo is now a Soul Reaper, and this dude, this Dawn guy, can actually see him as a Soul Reaper. So he does have some skills, and this Dawn guy has been thinking for years that he's been freeing these souls so they can be free of their chains, they can be free of the physical world. He's been thinking that him sticking his staff in their chest hole has been sending them to a better place. But I guess he never realized that he's actually forcing them into becoming a hollow sooner than they would have. And maybe he just got out of dodge before the hollow could eat him, because he does have I'm assuming, an unusual high spirit energy. And I think, I'm just shocked that he's maybe never seen a hollow before, because he does seem a little shocked when he sees this hollow appear. He's just like, what is this? I really like the design of this hollow. Some of them look kind of goofy, but this one looked pretty cool and menacing. He almost had like a Predator-style head going on. I do like their face mask things that come out of nowhere. Explain the face mask thing to me. I know it said it somewhere in the manga, but I kind of read right through it. It didn't really settle in my memory, because every time a hollow is born, they get this skull face mask thing. And then eventually Ichigo shows this guy, Dawn, that this guy's a monster, and he's the one who caused it, and Dawn's like, what? I've been doing this whole time? Which I don't understand why Dawn hasn't been eaten alive by a hollow yet, because he forces these spirits to become hollows right in front of him, and it didn't take long, maybe 5 minutes after he forced this hollow. So he's basically recording his episodes and getting the hell out of the town, and maybe a Soul Reaper shows up and takes care of the problem he created. He's probably been the cause of multiple deaths, or spirits being eaten by hollows, or even just humans getting their souls ripped out of their bodies. I'm really interested in the hat and clogs guy, because he keeps showing up every time Ichigo's in the middle of some shiz. And I think it's pretty interesting. I don't know exactly what he wants, but he obviously thinks that Ichigo has something special. So Ichigo and this Dawn guy end up taking out this newborn hollow, which I assume can't be that strong. I assume they get stronger with time the longer they're a hollow. He's a little baby hollow. I'm also curious if they're stronger based on how evil they were in real life. They're even they explain that this hollow, when he was alive, was so mad and angry that his father or something didn't gift him this hospital that he's chained to, because he was supposed to make hella money off of it. But together, thanks to a little bit of help from Dawn and Ichigo just being a badass, cutting up things, they were able to beat this guy. It did take a while, actually. They ended up, they're on TV while this happens. Obviously, the helicopter with the camera, all they can see is Dawn dealing with some invisible force. So I'm sure it looked great because there's explosions happening, windows are shattering, buildings are cracking. It does not look like nothing's happening. So it is great for him in that way, but it did feel like if I was watching this show, I would think that he set up explosions that would cause damage to the building, so it made it look like a better episode. Because before that, he had stuck the staff into the hole of the spirit, and it just did not seem to, I don't know, it didn't seem like a good episode of his show. I'm assuming his episodes are at least 30 minutes long with commercials, and I think him jumping out of an airplane, landing, and then looking like he stuck his staff into the invisible air and saying he did it doesn't seem cool to me, because nothing really happened until the real fight started happening. And he also says that, I'm going to take you on, Ichigo, as my #1 disciple. And Ichigo's like, you're a weirdo, stay away from me. So after that little bit of an arc, sort of, you want to call it that, Ichigo gets reprimanded by his gym coach, and it's kind of ridiculous because he says, you were on TV and you made the school look bad. And eventually they all run away. It's not anything of interest. But after that happens, there's like all the kids are laughing about getting away from punishment and whatnot. And there's this really cool page where it's like, but that night, the incident and the footage of it would drastically change all of our lives. And the Dawn guy shows up at Ichigo's house, and he's trying to, I guess, hang out with his #1 disciple, and gives Rukia a bunch of gourmet rice dumplings and sweet bean paste from Hatia. So he bribed her into showing Dawn where Ichigo lives. And then Ichigo and her go out to hunt. But this is when we meet my current favorite character of this story, I think. I think he's my favorite character. I'm trying to find my favorite character. I don't know a whole lot about this guy yet, but he calls himself a Quincy. He kind of reminds me of Sasuke from the Naruto series. I believe his name is Ishidai, and he has a badass weapon, a like bow and arrow type spirit weapon. I've always thought that anime characters with bow and arrow type weapons are dope, and I always thought that they should have had one in the Naruto series. I think they should have one in the One Piece series. Maybe it doesn't fit so well with the pirate aspect, but I think a cool bow and arrow character, main good guy, would be dope. And this is what I'm getting here. He can make a spirit bow, and I guess his people hunt hollows. But they don't just hunt hollows like a Soul Reaper hunts hollows. They delete them, basically. When a Soul Reaper defeats a hollow, they get sent off into the Soul Society, which I am assuming is like the heaven of this world, where they get recycled, I'm guessing, or they get to live in paradise, I'm not sure, or reincarnated, I don't know. But this Quincy dude, his people, they eradicate these hollows, and it's not good, we find out later on. But he basically has been in one of Ichigo's classes for years. He's actually one of the smartest kids in his classes. But he hates Ichigo because he's a Soul Reaper. Because his master, who was also a Quincy, died fighting hollows and was not saved by any Soul Reapers. And we find out that the Soul Reapers were actually the cause of the eradication of most of the Quincies. And he's considered himself the last Quincy. So obviously he's not, because his master and himself were Quincies. I'm not sure if him and his master are related. I am curious about that situation. If you could comment down below, unless it's some kind of crazy spoiler. I can't imagine it would be. But Ichigo finds out that this dude is actually in his class, this Ishidai, the Quincy man, the guy that kind of reminds me of Sasuke, and when I read his dialogue, I use the Sasuke voice in my head, the English voice actor. He basically challenges Ichigo, and he's like, I'm gonna kick your butt, but he's like, nah, that's not, we're not gonna fight head on. I got this hollow bait, and I'm gonna release it into the air like a jackass. This is the dumbest decision. Maybe he's overly confident for sure. Way overconfident, because once he snaps his fingers and this so-called hollow bait breaks into the air, almost 5 minutes later, multiple hollows, maybe 50 hollows start popping out of the sky, and shit starts to go down. And then they start attacking the citizens of this town, and we get to see the main characters have to deal with them. The Quincy guys going out there eliminating them one by one. It reminds me a lot of the scene from Lord of the Rings with the bow and arrow guy, Gimli, the dwarf, and Legolas. They have like a competition to see who could kill the most villains, and I really like the idea of these two competing like this. It just seemed very dangerous. It was really cool. This seemed like the most high stakes situation that this whole town has been in this whole book so far. I know we're only a few chapters in. Under 100 chapters in. And so they start dealing with all the sky opening up and hollows just popping in and out. It made me think that maybe, why doesn't the Soul Society just use this hollow bait? If this hollow bait isn't as rare as it sounds like it should be, I hope it is like a rare thing, because it seems crazy. Like, they don't use this hollow bait and just get all the hollows on the world, as many as they can, into one place, and just have every Soul Reaper possible, fight them all to the death, and just end this. At least eliminate a lot of them. We get to see Chad fight another hollow. He's actually defending a bunch of citizens, including Ichigo's sister. I almost wanted to call him Bleach because of the name of the show. I don't know why. Why is the show called Bleach? Please comment down below and let me know why this show is called Bleach. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why. There's nothing bleachy about it. He shows up and he defends Ichigo's sister, who can see the hollow, whereas Chad could only see like a blur in front of his face, but it eventually ignites Chad's innate spirit energy within his body, which creates like a crazy cool black armor arm. Like, his arm becomes really cool, like this out of nowhere armor, which I was cheering for when it happened in the book, but then when it was over and after they defeated the hollow, I was like, where did that come from? I know Chad seemed a little stronger than the average person, but it seemed like it was out of nowhere. And out of nowhere for sure was Orihime ending up with a spirit power as well, because she can like summon these little crazy fairies that all have abilities that just wipe hollows out, because they're just OP as shit. At least the hollow that she fought, who was crazy cool. It was like an octopus hollow with a bunch of tentacles. Of course, the tentacle monster fought the schoolgirls. But he can shoot these seeds into people and then control them. And he started having Orihime fight her classmates. I almost wanted Orihime's friend, who's also Ichigo's friend, to be the one with powers and not Orihime. Orihime definitely feels like the damsel in distress, while this girl seems badass and can handle herself. And I thought that maybe she would somehow have some innate power, maybe down the line. I don't know why she doesn't. She almost seems like she knows more about Ichigo than Orihime. I wish that she would get more time. I don't remember her name. I just call her Orihime's badass friend. But Orihime, with her little fairies that she can summon out of literally nowhere, start taking apart this tentacle monster pretty easily, actually. She's got like 6 little fairies that come off her little headpiece that turn into a little headpiece that her brother gave her, I think. Her little bobby pin things. And they beat the opponent. Sheep collapses. Chad collapses after using their spirit energy. At least they're not OP where the point where they can just keep fighting. They obviously can only use the spirit power for 5 to 10 minutes at a time right now. So these guys are obviously going to be important to Ichigo's crew of fighters, in my opinion. So, we're almost to the end of this, I promise. Eventually, Ichigo is fighting and destroying these damn hollows. Khan, I believe his name is, little bear, is within Ichigo's body, keeping him safe. It's pretty funny because he ends up going to find Rukia, who has the phone, to locate where the hollows are, which leads to absolutely nothing except a really funny gag of him being a jackass and getting his ass kicked by Rukia. Then Rukia tries to fight a hollow and fails terribly. We also get to see that Hat and Clogs guy explain to Chad and Orihime that they've activated their innate inborn powers, the spirit energy within them, just because they were in close proximity to not only a hollow, but to Ichigo. Ichigo is just full of spirit energy, as we find out in this big major final climax of a fight right at the end of the last 4 chapters of these 25 chapters. Ichigo and the Quincy have to team up because for some unexplained reason, all of the hollows end up gathering into one spot, the spot that they are standing right now. And as the Quincy explains his backstory to Ichigo and how shitty the hollows were, or the Soul Society were to his people, then they end up taking out a bunch of these weakling hollows, but there's a lot of them, and they're kind of by themselves, and they think, well, this kind of sucks, but I think if we team up, we can do this. And the Quincy's like, we're not going to team up. Like, I don't want to team up with you. You're kind of a dick, and I don't like you. And then he's like, you don't not like me. You just don't like soul reapers, and you need to understand that I'm a regular human, and I just became a soul reaper. He didn't say that, but he should have. And then, even more scary than like 15 hollows surrounding them, and they finally decide to work together, like, okay, we can do this. Together we can handle these hollows. A ginormous hollow, giant, like, reminds me of something from Attack on Titan, comes out of the sky. I guess he's like 100 hollows put together or something. Some crazy boss hollow. But luckily for Ichigo and the Quincy guy, Mr. Kurosaki shows up with his crew of 2 children, which I'm assuming are much older than they look. Please let me know if I'm right. These kids do not seem like they should be children if they work for this guy. I'm assuming they're old, because why would he have little kids work for him unless they're like his kids? That's my assumption. We're going to find out these 2 little kids are hundreds of years old. But they show up with crazy spirit weapons and just take out all the little hollows. But they end up letting Ichigo and the Quincy have to deal with the ginormous super hollow that looks intimidating as fudge. And Rukia's like, no, don't do this. You're gonna die. I couldn't handle that. A regular Soul Reaper could not handle that. Usually they send in like the Black Ops of Soul Reapers to handle this creature from hell who starts eating hollows for strength. Nothing that Ichigo does. His game plan was to cut this dude at his feet and try to cut him down to size. He thought if he started cutting at his feet, eventually his head would fall and then he could cut the mask. And I thought that was funny. Ichigo kind of fights like a child throwing a tantrum. Then we find out, because even the Quincy's bow and arrow stands no chance against this giant hollow. It can't even pierce the mask and cause any damage. He finds out if he's in close proximity to Ichigo's sword, he can draw energy off of Ichigo, who's always putting out energy because he doesn't know how to control his spirit energy. And if he could control his spirit energy, he would be so strong according to the Quincy. I'm not a big fan of the idea of someone just automatically being strong. I really like characters like Rock Lee from Naruto who work their ass off for just the strength they obtain. They bust their ass harder than anybody to win at the end of the day. Like, Ichigo does not feel like an underdog in any way, shape, or form, especially now. The power within him would kill him if he could control it, if he could hold it within. But if he's able to hold it in for a little while, and then he lets the valve open, he can summon a lot of energy, and he's able to cut the gigantic hollow and defeat the giant hollow. Well, he does beat the giant hollow, but he doesn't kill it. It takes off. He's like, okay, I did a giant slash to the hollow, like he cut the side of its face, but not enough to finish it off. And then Ichigo is like, I did it, victory! He has a really funny victory pose with 2 fingers in the air, like he just don't care. And then he collapses because he just released so much spirit energy is what I got from this. I'm not 100% sure. Please comment down below. But he releases this giant slash. Then he collapses after claiming victory, even though he technically didn't defeat the hollow. And his Zanbakuto starts to look weird in the manga panel in chapter 50. Like, it starts to... The shape of his Zanbakuto is losing its integrity, is what the Quincy says. He realizes that he needs to stop whatever Ichigo's doing with his spirit energy. Like, he can't even control his spirit energy because he's in close proximity to Ichigo. So he's got this gigantic energy bow. And the only thing he can think of is, because of all this energy coming out of Ichigo, this well of spirit energy, he's going to draw it in, because Quincy's don't use their own spirit energy to fight. They use spirit energy around them to fight, is what I got from this. And so he just starts firing off giant arrows, which probably would have taken out this giant creature. They don't even actually shoot a giant arrow at the giant hollow, but I think that might have been able to finish him off. I could be completely wrong here. Then, after he fires a bunch of these arrows... By the way, I forgot to mention that every time he uses these arrows, it, like, damages his arm. He starts bleeding. I think maybe if he uses it too much, it starts damaging his physical body. Maybe because he's using somebody else's spirit energy. But it really F's him up. But he's able to save Ichigo, draining him of this excess spirit energy. And then we find out that this dude... with the hat and clogs, he cleans up the whole mess that they had going on and closed up the cracks in the sky. It was pretty funny because they looks like they're just like fixing it with regular tools, but I'm assuming they're spirit tools. Finally, probably the most important page in all 25 chapters, the last page of chapter 50, it says, Secret Remote Squad to Central 46. Locate missing personnel and criminal Rukia Kuchiki. So, I don't know what's going on here. Is Rukia not with the Soul Society? Is she like a rogue Soul Reaper? Please comment down below unless it's some crazy spoiler. Actually, don't. That sounds like a spoiler. I'm excited. So we're finally gonna meet some secret remote squad that's coming. So I'm assuming more Soul Reapers, or maybe like a cleanup crew that aren't necessarily Soul Reapers that can come and get Rukia and arrest her and bring her back to the Soul Society. That's what I'm getting from this. Well, I'm gonna wrap this review up and say that I'm really enjoying this. I think the first 25 chapters did not capture me, and I was excited to see what the next 25 were. I'm not going to fully judge Bleach until I at least get 100 chapters in, and I'll give you my full thoughts on the first 100 chapters, and I'm sure by then I'll be hooked like most really good manga will do to you, just like the One Piece and the Naruto. we're building this world right now, is what I see. It's an easy read, which I love. After reading One Piece, which is just full of dialogue and world building, this is an easy run through. There's some gag moments. There's some epic, insane Dragon Ball Z-esque fights, Yu Yu Hakusho-esque fights, more like that. And I'm excited to see what Ichigo's development is. He's obviously full of crazy amounts of energy. I'm assuming he's just going to go super Soul Reaper at some point. He's already stronger than Rukia from what I can tell. And because she couldn't handle that hollow, but he did without really any assistance, even from the Quincy guy who wanted to help him, but he was like, nah. There was a point when they're fighting that giant hollow where they're like, okay, we're going to work together and I'm going to use this giant bow and arrow that's coming off of your spirit energy and we're going to do this. It was kind of funny because he's like, touch me with your sword and we can do this. And then maybe I missed something, but Ichigo walks up with his sword and then just summons all of his power and does a giant slash, and this giant creature takes off. The hollow takes off. The scariest thing so far bounces. He's like, nah, I don't want any of that, son. I'm excited to see what happens. There's a lot of mysteries that I'd like solved. I'd like to know what this hat and clog guy has anything to do with this. I want to know if Orihime and Chad are going to become part of his squad of fighters. I'm assuming they are, but why introduce them into the story if they aren't going to be important to it as support characters? I'm assuming they will join up with the Ichigo Rukia squad and be part of some battles, maybe take on the minor villains, take out the weak hollows so that Ichigo can take on the main villain. That's my guess on the future here. I'm probably right. I am Mr. Morphetto. This is Morphanime. Please tell your friends. I will continue to read the next 25 chapters, chapter 51 to chapter 75. Please return to Morphanime. Please subscribe, please share, and like this video. I'll talk to you later.